And welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I do have a question. Oh, these headphones, these microphones, these headphones are different. It sounds different.
Ear mics?
Is this Chase's?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow. It's like a really crisp, fancy.
So he's been saving the good stuff for him.
I sound really good to myself right now. But I do have a question. I know we've been told many times by radio, folks that we should talk more about the equipment in the studio, that listeners really get into that. Why won't this won't bend? See how yours is like, this is just straight up, my microphone.
I don't know. We might have to take a look at that.
Yep, we'll have to investigate.
Do a bit of digging.
I mean, I can still do it like this, but it probably should be like that, right?
I mean, I don't think
like it's tilted toward you.
Yeah. I don't know who's sitting there. Maybe D-Mace, Derek might have been sitting in there earlier.
So
power tools.
Person. Yeah. I don't know. We'll
so
see.
he did this. He also has this butt heating pad in this chair.
A lot of leftover D-Mace in here.
D-Mace DNA in here. But I like Chase's ear things.
Ear mics?
Yeah, ear contraptions.
I just like calling them ear mics.
Ear mics?
Yeah.
Ear mics.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
you start talking about a microphone. I was like, well, it's not that, but we'll go with it.
Yeah. It's a really rich,
mahogany,
crisp, sound right now.
Good.
Man,
that's good.
I hope it sounds like that for the listeners.
Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing good. The sun's coming up a little bit earlier and earlier these days on the way in. Some beautiful sunrises starting to pop up. We're getting there. Summer is right around the corner. I don't know. April went by really quickly.
It really did. Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of the draft and we were just so swarmed, but it's already almost halfway through May.
I know. It's crazy. And we got the playoffs still in full force in the NBA and the NHL. Miko Rantanen a hat trick last night for the Stars. Apparently, he's just going to score a hat trick every game now. We'll see how that goes. And how about those New York Knicks, baby? They're up 2-0 against the Celtics. You're not a believer yet.
It's insane. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of that game. I watched the fourth quarter. I could not believe what the Celtics were doing. I mean, they just do nothing but jack up three-pointers.
Not good.
They are, 25 for 100, I think, in 2 games? That's not good.
It's not a good percentage.
That's way too many threes, and they just keep launching them. They're already the test case for okay, are we 2-3 crazy in the NBA? And I mean, look, I'm not sad that they're losing. I still somehow I still can't believe that they're going to lose this series to that Knicks team. It's hard to believe, but maybe they are. Meanwhile, my Leafs are
Leafs are in good shape.
My Leafs are cup bound. I just want you to know.
Leafs are in good shape.
Like everybody at the Athletic, I think I'm the only person at the Athletic who picked them to win it all. And whatever editor saw that I picked them probably laughed at me, and I cannot wait to gloat. 1967.
I mean, I did think last night, they're up 2-0 in the series now against Florida. I was like, this is setting up for a really painful loss for Toronto.
Probably.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, pretty good start for Toronto.
They're good, man.
They're good. We'll see if they can finish the job against Florida. The Eastern Conference final of the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers could be riveting, though.
Bring it back old school.
Yeah.
That brings me back.
It does.
Bring it back old school. And I'll tell you what, if my Warriors are still, they would not mind that being the Eastern Conference final.
No, they would not. No doubt about that. We got a lot to get into on the program today. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will be with us at 7 o'clock. We'll go rapid fire with him on Preds, Titans, and a nice little weekend series coming up between Tennessee and Vanderbilt as well. So looking forward to that. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. We'll get into all things Titans and the National Football League with him. Take your thoughts in the meantime. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Joe, you want to start today with a little Tom Brady talk. So Brady ended up on Logan Paul's podcast, not Jake Paul, because Jake Paul is spending his time fighting people in the ring, but Logan Paul, his podcast. And they talked about a wide variety of different things that went on throughout Tom Brady's career. But the subject of Shedeur Sanders and his slide in the draft came up. And as we know, Tom Brady is part owner of the Raiders. And according to the Raiders, and Mark Davis talked about this before the draft, and different members of the Raiders organization have talked about this. Yeah, Tom Brady, he's going to be pretty involved. That guy's going to be involved. And if we're thinking about drafting a quarterback, well, we'd be stupid not to involve Tom Brady in those discussions. But Skip Bayless put it out there that basically, here was the tweet, quote, "It is now pretty clear Tom Brady, who mentored Shedeur, told the Raiders not to take Shedeur." Duly noted. That was what Skip Bayless put out there. So that came up on that podcast with Logan Paul. And Brady went on this long rant about the media and how the media could just throw things out there and says, quote, "That's the problem with the media. Everybody can just say whatever the F they want and get away from it or get away with it." It's kind of unfortunate because there actually used to be a lot of integrity in the media, and there's way less now because everyone needs crazy voices to get hurt. It actually probably hurts a lot of relationships, which is not the goal of broadcasting. It should be to develop and cultivate some problems and solve problems rather than critiques. I want people to offer solutions. That was the quote from Tom Brady. So your thoughts on Brady, his appearance on Logan Paul's podcast, and his insistence that he was not a part of any evaluation process that involved Shedeur Sanders sliding and the Raiders passing on him.
I now wish this was my rant. First of all, did he just say that garbage that you just said, or did he actually say, no, I didn't have anything to do with it?
He said, quote, "I wasn't part of any evaluation process."
Yeah.
We have a little bit that Stillman played yesterday of Brady.
Let's hear it.
This is what we have.
It's a good question. I wasn't a part of any evaluation process or
Skip Bayless says otherwise.
No. Well, everyone's got that's the problem with media is everyone can just say whatever the they want. I actually texted Shedeur because I know him very well. And I said, dude, like whatever happens, wherever you go, like that's your first day. Day 2 matters more than the draft. I was 199.
Yeah.
So who could speak on it better than me? Like what that really means. Use it as motivation. You're going to get your chances. Go take advantage of it.
Go at your boy.
Yeah. So first of all, Skip Bayless, I don't really, follow many Skip Bayless tweets. I have no problem with what he tweeted. It's an opinion. He's not reporting it. It's an opinion. He said it's pretty clear that Brady told him not to take Shedeur. Like you said at the top, the Raiders made it very clear they're going to lean on Brady, especially when it comes to quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They had ample opportunity to take Shedeur Sanders. You're telling me that there's just Tom, what do you think of Shedeur? No, don't ask me. Earmuffs. Really?
I don't want to be involved.
And what the hell are you talking about? There used to be a lot of integrity in media. It was an opinion. There's way less now because everyone needs crazy voices to get heard. It probably hurts relationships, which is not the goal of broadcasting. It should be to develop and cultivate and solve problems. And rather than the critiques, I want the people to offer solutions. Oh, really? It's not supposed to be to cover things and to have honest opinions about things at all? No, it's just about to be friends and cultivate relationships. That's what you do when you go out on your little things with Fox and like mix in with the mixers with everybody with their neckties and their shrimp cocktail and whatever the hell you do out there. If you're going to be in media, you should have any clue about what media is. What the hell is he talking about? He's just saying a bunch of words because he got pinned down on something that's obvious, which is he told the Raiders don't take Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, look, either one of two things is true. Either he was a part of the process that involved the Raiders passing on Shedeur Sanders several times, or he was not involved, and the Raiders are just a bunch of liars and like, we could ask Tom Brady about maybe what his opinion on quarterbacks are, but why would we do that?
We forgot to ask him about Shedeur. We asked him about Dylan Gabriel and Quinn Ewers. We forgot to ask him about Shedeur. Oh, that's right. You mentored him. Oh, we wouldn't ask you about that. I love how he texted Shedeur, dude, I was 199. Like, go be motivated. If I'm Shedeur, I'm like, yeah, well, what the hell happened with you? Like, what? Like, what did Shedeur text back? Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, GOAT. It's weird how you guys didn't pick me ever. I mean, it's a joke. So again, Skip Bayless. I don't love. We talk about the screaming like I just did. Arguing aspect of media and how it can be annoying. But like the idea that this is, there used to be a lot of integrity in media.
That's what he said.
So basically, anyone who's not critical or ever tries to find out truth about anything, those are the people with integrity in media.
The integrity in media stopped when they thought I flattened all those footballs. That was it.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. They should have been trying to build a relationship with me and offer solutions like, here's how the ball will feel good in your hand without you cheating. But instead, they tried to cover the story.
I mean, here, I just want to
What?
read the quote from Raiders general manager John Spytek. I think this was from an Athletic article very recently, right before the draft. It says, quote, "We're going to lean on Tom as much as we can." That was from Pete Carroll. And this is what John Spytek said. "When we're looking at a quarterback, we'd have to be fools not to involve Tom Brady." It's like, okay, there you go.
After the draft, oh, folks, sorry, we're fools.
Idiots.
We were fools. We forgot. Gosh darn it.
I mean, every now and then, like, look, I still largely like Brady, but every now and then it's okay just to be like, yeah, took a look at him and just didn't feel like he was a fit for our team. Like, we all know you're involved. You don't have to sit there and act like you weren't. Like, it's okay. We get it.
Yeah, I mean, he immediately deflects and goes to the whole, texted him and stuff, and you're asking people to be incredibly stupid.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We are off and running on Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts all show long. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up later this hour, so we'll go ahead and take your best things and your worst things. Coming up next, an update on the Legerius Sneed situation that Paul Kuharski threw out there yesterday. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com, who was with us yesterday on the program, put this out there yesterday afternoon, the latest on the Legerius Sneed situation. I'll read the first couple of graphs from it, and then, Joe, we'll get your thoughts on everything going on here. It says, quote, while Legerius Sneed waits to see if a grand jury indicts him on a felony charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon connected to an alleged shooting on December the 6th, 2024, his attorney has denied the claims against him in a related civil suit. The criminal charge has been officially filed, but no date has been set yet for the grand jury hearing in Dallas County, Texas. PK's piece goes on to say, quote, Sneed said, if anything happened, it was all the doing of the person with him, who is characterized by the defendant's, or excuse me, by the accuser's attorney, Levi McCatherine, who Jared had on the show a few weeks ago, as Sneed's, quote, personal assistant. So there you go. You've got now a grand jury. They're waiting to see if they indict him on a felony charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which is connected to that shooting. And Sneed apparently putting it out there that if anything happened, it was the doing of the person who was with him and not him. So that's where things currently stand. And as PK points out in the article, criminal charges have been officially filed, but there's no date yet for the grand jury hearing on that front.
Okay. Well, that's it's going to be interesting to see where things go on the criminal front. You know, you got the $1 million civil suit too. If anything happened to happen while I was in the car, you know.
I did find that phrasing interesting. If there was anything that went down, it was not me.
Again, it's kind of like, you know, like Brady. I mean, I don't know. We just happen to never talk about Shedeur Sanders. It's just so weird.
Boy. The Sneed's lawyer in PK's piece, Michael J. Todd, had this quote, defendant is not liable as alleged by the plaintiff because the alleged conduct was the criminal act of a third party. The alleged acts, if any, were performed by John Doe without any assistance, encouragement, or direction by Legerius Sneed. That was the quote from Sneed's lawyer, Michael J. Todd. It's what he wrote in the original answer, the defendant's original answer, dated back on April the 21st there. So there you go. That's their position at the moment.
All right. That's going to be interesting. So meanwhile, Sneed available?
Yeah, apparently so. He's at they began their phase 2 of the OTAs this week, and Sneed was out there. He was in that video of the tug of war competition that the Titans put out there earlier this week.
I missed
Sneed
that.
is out there. Yeah. It was an intense tug of war out there.
You know, I do wonder, like, if all this stuff didn't happen, would he be there?
I don't know. That's a good question. I wonder that too. Like we had a question on the text line from Mo that says, are you guys surprised that Sneed was at voluntary OTAs? And frankly, I'm like, with everything going on, no, I'm not really surprised that he's in voluntary OTAs. Like, number one, he's hurt all year last year. So like, I'd probably like you to be there after that for no other reason than that.
Sure.
But when you got all this stuff going on, if you want to just throw like a bad look with the organization on top of it, I know it's voluntary, but it'd be nice for you to be there.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the right move.
Yeah.
For sure to be there. So, yeah, and I don't have a great feel for like what this could mean. Of course, obviously, we also have the whole question of the NFL. I mean, I have to assume, you know, a lot of times these things end up getting, you know, they get to the plea bargain situations. Like there's enough, it seems to be enough reasonable doubt on exactly what went down here, enough lacking clear evidence of what exactly went down here, that there's probably going to be some kind of a plea bargain that won't involve jail time. And then the question becomes the NFL and what they'll do. I would guess, I mean, he's probably going to get a game or two, right? Something like that. That would be my guess.
That's my guess at this point as well. But, you know, how quickly does all this come together? You know, it's, you know, when there is finally a date associated with, you know, the grand jury and the felony charge. I mean, that's a different thing than just the civil suit. So how does that all come together? Like, it's going to be interesting to see the timeline of all that, I guess.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I guess it's possible that you bump into and you don't have a resolution by the season. Is it something where you're going into the season doing this stuff and then you get a late Titans are fighting for the AFC South title and you get a late season suspension? Yeah, that'd be tough.
That'd be a tough pill to swallow at that point.
But if Legerius Sneed, he's participating in things right now and he's going to be healthy. Obviously, this is a terrible situation here, but I mean, to me, if you're the Titans, you need help, and you've paid him well to help you.
Yep. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Jared in Spring Hill. Jared, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning. Yeah, I don't really know I know how I feel about the Sneed, and I just think it's unfortunate, and he got super lucky that nobody was physically hurt. And in my opinion, you can't really just throw your arms up and be like, well, it wasn't me. I was just there along for the ride. Like, no, you are pretty culpable and implicated as well. And they're probably going to come after you more than anybody else. And it seems like he's just kind of trying to create a fall guy or some type of something out of this. But I'm glad to see that he's volunteering and things. He's trying to make up and pay for his reparations here. But also, too, on the Brady quotes about, like, how the media can just say whatever they want. Well, whenever I was growing up watching ESPN 20 years ago as a child, younger, there was actually journalists that were on all the panels and all the shows. And so there was real journalism, but now they just flooded the shows with ex-players and egomaniacs who've never really been able to handle a lot of criticism. And then whenever they say things that are outlandish, well, then you're coming after them and their well-being. And it just seems like a lot of the media outlets have sacrificed pure journalism over, well, let's get in an ex-guy that knows what we think knows what he's talking about and those types of things. So I would love to see real capital J journalism come back like capital J Joe. All right. Well, hey, fellas, have a great day. Tighten up.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. I mean, that kind of goes back to the Skip Bayless part of this. Like, Skip Bayless, do I have a lot of problems with how sports have been discussed over the past, 10, 15 years? Like, First Take kind of changed that stuff, right? Like, it was Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless and the arguing and screaming back and forth at each other.
Who, by the way, real quick, both of those guys are whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, they grew up in newspapers and newspaper columnists and eventually got to TV and started doing that stuff.
But I think we would all agree that the style of how these shows have now been presented has changed dramatically. Like, I remember, some people liked the show, some people didn't like the show, but I remember waking up as a kid on Sunday mornings and the sports reporters would be on. And I found that John Saunders was on that. It was really good. And I just really enjoyed that show. Around the Horn has been a quote unquote debate show, and Pardon the Interruption has been a quote unquote debate show, but it's not really the same thing. It's different than what it turned into.
I mean, Stephen A. and Bayless, just with their personalities, and just to me, both of them just have gone into, again, I don't pay that much attention. I'm kind of speaking out of ignorance, but I feel like both of them, certainly with Bayless, like the LeBron stuff, they've gone into this, here's some crazy takes that I'm going to throw out and then I'm going to die on the hill. But yeah, those shows you're talking about around the horn, which unfortunately is going away. Yep. Sports Reporters is a great show. It's just conversation. That's what we do. Talk shows are a conversation. People are like, well, we've gotten away from facts, and no, I mean, there's still facts and actual journalism going on. I promise you. I mean, here's my little athletic sweatshirt here. It's what we do every day, But yes, their opinion has, I think, on TV. Especially that is where it has become. But sports talk radio has been around for how long now?
Long time.
40 years?
Well, look,
50 years?
To be fair, there are some people around the country who probably don't do things the right way and just throw stuff out there and see what sticks to the wall. But that's not generally the way that things go.
No. And I mean, here and there in this market, in any market here and there, you'll see someone who is doing that, and typically they don't gain much traction, is my experience. If you're not going to do it the right way and actually talk to people and do the stuff you're supposed to do, then you're probably not going to gain much traction. Some people try it.
My favorite part about the whole exchange, though, is Brady is the media now. He's in the media.
Yeah, but
getting
he's
paid
just,
a lot of
he's just
money
trying
by
to
the media.
cultivate relationships and offer solutions. No critiques.
I mean,
William Titan just doesn't understand what I'm saying, but he continues to blab on the YouTube chat.
keep them coming on the YouTube chat. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe, there's been a position group with the Titans I've been whining about for a while that I'm wondering if they may have solved. We'll get into that coming up next. We got the best and worst things in sports at 645. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up at 6:45. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will be with us at 7. We got a lot of things to get into with Gentry, so looking forward to that conversation coming up in just a few minutes.
That's
Joe, you
Gentry
okay
what he
with it?
thinks of William Titan. Gentry, your thoughts on William Titan?
Keep the YouTube chat coming. It's good stuff.
He's just a fan. Now we've gotten to the point of, oh, well, I'm just a fan, so you just think I'm stupid. Okay.
Is that your William Titan voice? I like that.
I guess.
That was good.
That's how I imagine William Titan talking. I'm sure he has a fine voice.
William Titan, let us know how you talk. 615-737-1025.
You can call in.
Our phone number.
Call in so I can yell at you.
So Gunnar Helm selected in the 4th round by the Titans. I'm very intrigued by him, Joe. He's a 22-year-old kid and had his production in college at Texas really spike this year. So his first 3 years at Texas, he played 12 games in 2021, did not have a catch in that season, played 13 games in 2022, 5 catches, 44 yards, 14 games in 2023, 14 catches, 192 yards. So you're talking about throughout his first 3 years, not getting a lot of opportunities offensively, and he had 19 total catches in his first 3 years of college. And then last year, 60 catches, 786 yards, 7 touchdowns for Gunnar Helm. So an explosion in production for him and an explosion in opportunity for him last year as well. So the Titans have taken him in the 4th round. I've been whining about tight end for a while. I've said, at some point here, Chig is fine and Josh Wiley's fine. Like, they're decent players, but neither one of those guys to me are like legitimate starting level tight ends that you really have to worry all that much about if the opposing defense, in my opinion. So the question is, what is Gunnar Helm? Like, can Gunnar Helm be that at the next level? I just mentioned the college production. It really spiked this past year. The interesting thing about tight end, and we'll see how this continues to evolve as they become, more and more a part of offenses nowadays. But, we've talked about this all the time. Travis Kelce was taken, I think, was it 63rd overall? George Kittle was taken 146th overall. Sam Laporta in Detroit was in the 2nd round, 34th overall pick. Tucker Kraft in Green Bay, 3rd round, 78th overall pick. And all those guys. Now, obviously Kittle and Kelce to an extreme level. But like Laporta is a huge part of what Detroit does.
Yeah.
Tucker Kraft is a huge part of what Green Bay does. Like, there's a lot of really good tight ends in the league that have been identified and found later in drafts. So, 4th round pick for Gunnar Helm. I think most people look at 4th round picks and they say, okay, well, if that guy could become like a starter, that would be great. That's awesome. But we've seen like 3rd, 4th, 5th round tight ends come in and not only be starters, but be like impactful players in this league. So how do you view Gunnar Helm, his production at Texas, and what you think he could be at the NFL level?
Yeah, I mean, you'd love to, end up with one of those stories. It is amazing how most of the best tight ends, like Tony Gonzalez, is he a 1st round pick?
I believe he was.
Gates was a high pick too, but the guys you mentioned, certainly Kittle and Kelce.
Yeah, Tony Gonzalez was taken 13th overall.
Yeah. So that happens too, but you're talking like the best tight ends. Some of the best tight ends of all time have been, more like middle round picks. Look, I've watched Gunnar Helm a lot last year. I think he's good. I think he definitely has a chance to emerge maybe this season, as tight end 1. Again, depending on your scheme and what you're doing out there, like how much 2 tight end are they going to run this year,
right,
and stuff like that. But I think that he's good enough for that. I don't know that, like his athletic, like his measurables and stuff were not great. Like you said, his production took a huge leap. I think he's a good player. I'm looking at Brugler, his Brugler's all around evaluation. Basically needs time to adjust, has the toughness, pass catching talent to potentially become a 3-down player. Could be a mismatch weapon. Lackluster combine performance is going to give NFL teams pause, Maybe he could have gone higher and things like that. I think he's good. I don't know that I see this difference making problem for teams that some of those guys you mentioned are. Laporta, just like what's his name, who the Lions had and they traded him to Minnesota, just like so many guys, like and just like Kittle, like the Iowa tight end thing is, it's crazy. But I don't remember Kittle being like the insane talent in college. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just don't. I mean, obviously, I can't sit here and pretend like I even watched Kelsey at Cincinnati. Yeah. But you watch
and let me be clear. Like I'm not trying to say that Helm has to be Kelsey or Kittle.
Right.
But can he be, a starting level tight end that is a legitimate starting tight end that's a legitimate threat out there?
Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, for example, those guys, it's not like, obviously, if you had any idea what they were, they would have gone at the top of the draft.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I'm watching Gunnar Helm, I think he's a good player. I think he's got good size, skill, moves well. And sometimes it's just like it doesn't all come together, or you just don't know what it's going to be at this level until you're actually at this level. But I like the pick. And I do think that he should at some point be their best tight end.
Well, and I do wonder, are we going to see less of, as the years go on here and the passing game continues to just be what is really valued in the league? Are we going to see less and less of finding these tight ends in like the 4th and 5th round because people put a premium on it? Like, it's not wide receiver and it's not edge rusher and it's certainly not quarterback, but you see it. It's tight end is really important in the league right now, right? I mean, Colston Loveland was just drafted high. Tyler Warren was just drafted high. And those two guys, I think, have a chance to be really good players. But I think back a couple years ago when the Final Four was what? Detroit, San Francisco.
Yep. Kittle, Laporta.
And then you had Kelsey, Kansas City, and Mark Andrews.
And Andrews.
Yeah, I mean,
no
obviously
doubt.
The quarterbacks are really important to that. But think about how important those 4 tight ends were to those 4 teams, right? Like it's a big deal to have a high level starting tight end.
Yeah, it is. And so, like, do you have to have it? You can't be successful without it. No, but I feel like just about every good team in this league has at least a good tight end. And I think that's what and again, we haven't focused that much on it because there's so many other deficiencies with the Titans, but it's a big deal. I mean, think about, they were terrible 10 years ago. They had one great player, right? It was Delaney Walker, but then he was a big part of, as they emerged, they started running the ball and all these other things got into place, offensive line. Delaney Walker was very important to some really good teams.
Well, and frankly, like you're looking at their receiving core right now, right? And you've got Ridley, you've got Lockett, but Lockett's going to be 33 in September. We've talked about his production's going down, which is fine. Like you brought him in and you're not paying him that much money. And I think he's a good guy to have in the room, but like, is Lockett going to give you much more than, 45 catches for 600 yards, which is right around what he had last year? He's probably not. So, like, of course, you want your 2 rookie receivers that you've drafted to come in and make a difference for you there. And who knows, maybe like Io Manor comes in and he's clearly a player, like right from the jump, which would be great. But in the meantime, it's like you're waiting on all your receivers to develop, and you're looking at, what I still think around the league is going to be viewed as lack of legitimate good options for Cam Ward. It'd be great to have a tight end that you could throw the ball to kind of take some of that pressure off the receiving core as you're continuing to try to build that right now if you're the Titans.
Yeah, and so some of that is also, can he be on the field in any situation? That's not always easy for a rookie. So, but yeah, I think he can be a good outlet for him. By the way, thanks to the text line, multiple people. Yeah, I was wrong. Gates was, of course, a really good basketball player at Kent State. He was undrafted. Yep. So he was a heck of a college, because we actually say facts on this show too, along with our opinions.
And when we get the facts wrong, sometimes we like to correct those.
It is a good thing to correct them.
Good
yes.
Thing. Yeah. I mean, also, like, if Helm's good, then you can use, like, I still think Chig, when Chig catches the ball, which, step one to being a receiving tight end, when he catches the ball, I still think he can do some good things with the ball after the catch. So, like, getting him in situations where he doesn't really have to be tight end one and is out there blocking, which at times it's not gone very well for him. Like if Helm can be that type of guy, does that free up Chig a little bit in different situations and passing situations? Like again, Chig is a fine player. I don't think he's a bad player. He's fine. Wiley, when he's healthy, is fine, but they need a little bit better than that at tight end.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Helm could do that.
I think he can be better than fine. I'm not comfortable going too much beyond that. But you just never know with some of these guys, and they become standouts in this league. A good question by Dustin was Borgonzi part of finding Kelsey? I'm not sure the timeline of Borgonzi. We can figure that. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard or read anything specific about him being involved. Was he even there? We can look that up. A good point by them in Portland. With Levis, they wanted to get Helmerman to go with Levis. Very good. Mayonnaise puns are very welcome in the 6 o'clock hour.
Yeah, very nice.
Try mayonnaise puns, William Titan.
Well, I think, Kelsey was drafted in 2013, and that was, I believe, Andy Reid's second year with Kansas City. So Andy Reid had been with Jason Kelsey in Philadelphia, and then he drafted Travis.
But was Borgonzi there yet?
I think so.
Think he was.
I think so, yeah.
Well, then take credit for it, man. There
It
you
says
go.
he contributed to 12 seasons, 10 titles, AFC West titles, and that included 2010.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Borgonzi, not only has he found the next Mahomes, he's found the next Kelsey. Good job, Borgonzi.
Let it go.
I think things are going to go well
Quick
here.
work in year one, baby. Attaboy. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up next. Gentry Estes will be with us at 7 o'clock from the Tennessee, and all that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week, now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst. You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. I believe in miracles. Yes! Unbelievable.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go. It is time for the best and worst things in sports for this week. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Best things, media lies. No, I'm just kidding. So how selfish can I be with best and worst?
I guess we're about to find out.
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like I should be thinking of the greater good. But the best thing in sports is that the Golden State Warriors continue their playoff run. And losing Steph Curry, which really could be the worst in sports for me. But again, it's very selfish. I'm very worried about Steph Curry's hamstring. He's going to miss game 2 tonight. But we might actually get a 5th title, guys. We might actually get a 5th title. And I say we with a capital W here. I'm sorry. I'm just really excited about it.
Koharski was all over you yesterday for your love for the Warriors. He was not a fan of your love for the Warriors.
Yeah, he just whines about everything. Kind of like other people I know. But my worst in sports is SEC umpires. And I'm not trying to be like a total like Vols homer here. But I will say that of course, when things like this happen, of course, Vol Twitter is going to give you the Zapruder, like they're going to give you like full video, every angle.
Oh, yeah.
It was unbelievably bad, this strike zone that ended up, and I know Tony Vitello loses his mind too much, and he can be a hothead out there screaming at everybody. But I got to say, he actually had beef in this game. Like, it was bad. Like, you have to have some semblance of consistency with your strike zone. So let's hope that we can get a little bit better umpiring for the big Vanderbilt-Tennessee series this weekend.
We will get into Vanderbilt and Tennessee coming up here in just a few minutes. Part of what we're going to get to with Gentry Estes. So looking forward to that. Ian Safar, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
You know what? I think I'm going to go with Mikko Rantanen for my best. Back-to-back hatties. Natural hat trick last night. Although some of the goals a little bit lucky last night, a little fluky. I saw a bounce or two, but still, I mean, that trade for Dallas seems to be working out. Not so much for Colorado. He seems to be helping carry the team right now. So way to go, Remax Rantanen. And
nice.
Worst.
Shout out to Stilly for that take.
Yes. And then worst, I'm going to go. I saw a headline about cutting funding for brain injury research this past week in some new congressional proposed budget. I don't know. I was reading how it could be very detrimental to high school and youth sports as far as just the brain injury studies. And I think we've been
something we should be doing.
I think we've been making some pretty good progress on that. And to go backwards into, I'll put that as my worst.
There you go.
That's a good worst.
My best thing in sports, the New York Knicks, baby. Up 2-0 against the Boston Celtics. I'm a believer. They're getting it done. I've talked myself into it.
Brunson's the man.
As the show's gone on. They're getting it done. They're taking down the Celtics. It's going to happen. We're going to have a sad Mike Vrabel in the stands at TD Garden when the Knicks ultimately get it done. Game 5.
We're going to end Vrabel's golf clapping. Maybe Vrabel, if you would show a little bit of spirit and heart when you're cheering for the Celtics, they might win.
My worst thing in sports, we have not gotten to this, and I think it's worth a mention. Brew McCoy medically retiring from the sport of football. It's not a huge surprise, number one, that he didn't get drafted. I didn't think he probably would, and obviously this is a big reason why. And Brew McCoy put it out there on social media the other day that he was medically retiring from football and is beginning kind of that next chapter of his life. I could say this, like, number one, I know, Joe, you know this from being around him. Fantastic representative of everything that's right about football, and he was an awesome guy at Tennessee. And as a Tennessee fan, one game that will forever be etched in my memory is obviously them beating Alabama in 2022. And the catch that he made to set up the field goal is one of my all-time favorite plays. Like, Hooker to McCoy to hold on to that ball to set up the game-winning field goal there. will live on in Tennessee lore forever. So congratulations to Brew McCoy on a fantastic college career. It's a shame that he's having to medically retire. My worst thing in sports.
Yeah, that's a good one. I will also say, his statement, did you see Ricky's quote tweet to it?
No, I didn't.
Ricky did the, sorry about that, or I'm happy for you.
It was very lengthy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was very lengthy. Yes. But no, that play, man.
Put that one down a little bit, Brew. Concise. Somebody's mad at you. JC in Goodlettsville says, good Lord, Joe. Did Vitello yell at the umps on the blown check swing that gave him game 1 against Florida State in the College World Series? This is from JC in Goodlettsville.
I mean, listen, I'm just saying that the strike zone in this particular game was, Tennessee benefits and gets hurt by bad umpiring just like every team, okay? The strike zone in this particular game was, I have no idea what it was, and that shouldn't be the case. So calm down. I'm not saying that Tennessee always gets screwed or anything like that. This was a bad case of umpiring, and Vitello can probably, use a little bit more discretion.
I don't know, man.
But it's kind of fun, right?
I enjoyed each individual umpire.
Yeah, he went to each guy and gave him
giving it to him.
And your shoes suck.
And now I'm going to second base. And now I'm walking over here to first base. It was pretty good. I enjoy. If you're going to get run. Get your money's worth out of it. I like that.
Yeah, I agree. No, he got the full.
I will say though, part of what makes Tennessee and Vanderbilt baseball so fun to watch them compete against each other, it's just how totally different Vitello and Corbin are. They're just so different in the way that they approach. Both great coaches, both do a fantastic job in their own right, but they're very different.
Yes. Vitello, it's as Corbin looks across the dugout, it's like he's looking at his weird nephew who really needs to calm the hell down at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, kind of. That's a good way to put it.
And he's
could you ever
the very serious, stuffy uncle in one dugout.
One thing that they're
out of control teenage nephew in the other dugout.
One thing that they're very similar on is, number one, being good coaches, but number two, they're both unbelievably competitive. They just show it in very different ways.
Yeah.
I was trying to think the other day, could I even envision Tim Corbin walking up to each individual umpire out there and getting in their face? It's I don't think I can.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Corbin takes losing terribly,
He's
as we've talked about.
Yeah.
But I can't. Certainly he's.
I'm sure he's gotten into it with umpires,
but I can't.
Not I don't remember one like that.
Yeah,
that was pretty wild.
Let's have more of that, Corbs.
We'll have Gentry Estes from the Tennessean with us coming up next. We'll get into the Preds, the Titans, and a little Tennessee Vanderbilt baseball with Gentry. All coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. And we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Gentry Estes from the Tennessean. Gentry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing wonderful. How are y'all?
Doing awesome. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Gentry, I want to start on the Preds. You were there for Barry Trotz's press conference this week. Later that night, the draft lottery in terms of possibilities for the Predators went as poorly as it could have gone, and they end up with the number 5 overall pick. So, kind of launching into the offseason here, the retention of Andrew Brunette in a league where things can look very differently from one year to the next, as you know. How do you feel about where the Predators are, the decision to retain Andrew Brunette, and what that means for your thoughts on how competitive this team may or may not be next season?
Yeah. I came away a little discouraged from that press conference. I think most people did, just because there didn't really seem to be a plan for how to fix this short term. And by that, I mean, if you're not making meaningful changes, then it's hard to expect meaningful change. And you just look at the Preds right now and you go, okay, well, why would we think next season's going to be any different? You guys have talked at length about the fact that in the NHL, you can't fire the players, so most teams end up firing the coach. I'm not saying that's necessarily a right or wrong in this instance, but it is how it usually goes in the NHL. And the Preds have been in this situation since, I guess, November, December, where it might have made sense to try to spark the team. You appreciate the fact that Barry Trotz does have a lot of loyalty, obviously, to Andrew Brunette, and I feel like he's backing his own decision here, and his own decisions in a lot of ways. But I could see a scenario where you either adjust and try to pull yourself out of this, or it just doesn't get any better. It's hard to look at this and see an older team. Why are they going to be any better next year when they're all a year older?
So I got into this argument with Jared yesterday, who I guess thinks that it doesn't matter, but I would argue that next year does matter in terms of if they're not a lot better, Gentry, and Saros doesn't have a huge bounce back year, they don't get in the playoffs. Obviously we can talk about Brunette possibly being fired at some point next season, but if that's the case and there isn't a huge turnaround, like what would you expect to be a fair assessment of Barry Trotz and I guess, the temperature level on his seat at that point?
What's interesting about this is when he first stepped into that job, he was very much committed to the rebuild idea, or at least clearing the decks of the roster at first. They had to sell off immediately at the trade deadline. There was a lot of talk about this, have some patience. This is going to take some time. And I do think at the time, Preds fans were so tired of being stuck in that same place that I do think there was some buy-in from, we talk about buy-in, some buy-in from the fan base in terms of, okay, we might be bad for a little bit, but there's a plan here and a way to come out of it. It feels like that first season went a little better than he expected. So now all of a sudden you spend in free agency, you bring in guys like Steven Stamkos, and all of a sudden everybody's like, okay, well now, hey, so much for the rebuild. We're a contender. And in a lot of ways, to me, it's not unlike where the Preds were a lot of the time under David Poile, where you kind of had a foot on both sides of the fence. And I just felt like in the Preds situation, Barry Trotz kind of tried to do both, and so far it hasn't worked. If it still doesn't work moving forward, and there isn't, guys, you start seeing apathy with that fan base. You start seeing empty seats at Bridgestone, things that have not happened for a long time. Then I think it does come back on the GM. And I think if the team is terrible and out of it again next November, that could happen.
Gentry, on the Titans front, what do you make of how the offense specifically is set up in the aftermath of the draft with the 2 rookie receivers that they've now taken? We were just talking about Gunnar Helm in the last hour. Obviously, Lockett has come in as well. What do you make of kind of the table that's set offensively for Cam Ward as he steps into this job?
I think it's better. I think the O-line's better. But I'm of the mindset here, and I have been all off season, that I'm not listening to pretty much anything that the Titans are saying. I'm only watching what they're doing. I think so far this offseason has kind of rewarded that from the standpoint of, you kind of knew all along that they were probably going to look for Cam Ward. And I think now what that's kind of telling you with how they did in the draft and what they kind of prioritized in terms of a lot of, project type draft picks, developmental type players, guys who hadn't been playing positions a long time, or you could see them being a lot better 3 years from now. I don't think the Titans are playing to be very good this year. Very little of what they have done, to me, suggests a team that is expecting to at least contend in 2025. So I feel like Cam Ward will have a long leash in terms of his ability to grow in this offense. Now, is there enough pieces around it to help to where this is actually going to look like a team that's improving, to give some hope for the future? I think that's really the question. But I think right now there's not a lot of pressure for a team that's trying to make a playoff push.
Yeah, it's interesting because I agree. I feel like the offensive moves you're trying to get you're trying to get as good as possible just to help the QB, right? I mean, but the defensive side of the ball is a little bit with a longer view, right? So then I get into another question. I guess every question I have for Gentry is about somebody on the hot seat. So, so they're probably not going to have a very good record next year, and they may be pretty bad on D. I think. I mean, again, maybe I'm wrong, but it just on paper, I don't see a lot of difference makers. So if that's the case, how do you judge Brian Callahan next year?
Ideally, you would like to see a scenario where a coach who specializes in developing quarterbacks is able to develop your number one overall pick quarterback. In an ideal world, it would really help Cam Ward to be able to have that. Since when have the Titans shown any patience when it comes to this sort of thing? I don't see how anyone can look at how this team is set up this season and how this season is probably going to go and feel confident that somebody's not going to get fired for it. And right now, I think if going by how things have gone the last few years, you would have to expect that would be the head coach. Now, if the team gets out there and they're improving, they play better toward the end of the year, there's a lot of scenarios that I think can affect that. But right now, if I'm Brian Callahan, I don't see how you can feel great about this scenario, just because there's going to be so much growth that needs to happen, most notably with the game's most important position.
So, Gentry, last thing for you here, a big matchup coming up between Tennessee and Vanderbilt on the baseball front. Vanderbilt playing maybe a little bit better than people expected. Tennessee struggling at the moment. So what do you make of where both teams stand and this weekend series coming up?
Yeah, I would have never expected going into this that Vanderbilt would be ranked higher than Tennessee. That hasn't been the case all season. Tennessee's been number one for a lot of the season. Whereas I think Vanderbilt's kind of been under the radar a little bit of a younger team that's starting to improve a little bit at the right time. Tennessee needs this. This is a big weekend for Tennessee. They go to Arkansas to end the regular season. It's a very good team. So if you don't win this series, I'm not so sure you're going to get the next one. And if you close on a run like that, then you're probably not hosting in the NCAA tournament. So I think it's that pivotal for Tennessee that they have a good weekend. I think they're probably going to have a good weekend only because when these two have played, there have been two consistencies when these two have played the last few years. It's been very chippy, very heated, and I think that'll be the case again. There's several reasons for that. But also Tennessee's just pretty much dominated Vanderbilt up until here very recently. Vanderbilt got one game to close last year's series. Then they beat them in the SEC tournament one time. But, it's not easy to go to Knoxville and win. Teams have made it look easy here lately, which has been one of the big surprises of this season. It's really the first time under Vitello that's happened. But I just feel like there's a lot on the line for Tennessee this weekend. We'll see how Vanderbilt responds to it. They can kind of play spoiler. They're a team, like I said, with some young players who are starting to improve, especially offensively. They've been a little more clutch lately. And there's going to be a lot of clutch situations, I think, going out to Tennessee this weekend. But I think this will be a circle the wagons kind of weekend for the Vols.
We'll see if Vitello makes it through the weekend without getting run by the umps. We'll see how that goes. Gentry, great stuff as always. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Take care, guys.
Gentry Estes from the Tennessee and our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take your reaction to what Gentry Estes had to say, plus a potential solution that Joe Rexrode has been yelling about for years. Could we be on the verge of it? We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Check out Nashville's best deal of the week, celebrating National Barbecue Month. Get a $50 gift card to Central Barbecue in Capitol View for half off. You can try their new barbecue sampler, ribs, wings, and barbecue sliders. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals while supplies last. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's head to our phone line and welcome in Ross to the program. Ross, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, guys, enjoy the call, the program each time. First time I've got the call in, but you started something last Thursday. I guess we've been talking about it all off season, and Gentry hit on it, but I don't hear anyone talking about this. I know the staff has to prove it, but I just don't remember seeing maybe the new safety for the Titans referring to it with the Panthers, but we had a rookie head coach, a rookie defensive coordinator, a rookie offensive coordinator, rookie offensive play caller, rookie defensive play caller, rookie special teams coach, none of whom had really coached together. I think that by itself is going to be improvement for this team, especially when you consider they had almost no players that really had worked in the scheme. On offense, you had one, Tyler Boyd, who you got in June. Now you at least have players in every position group that have played in this scheme, know what the coaches want. I know it still has to translate to the field, but I'm thinking they're going to get 2 or 3 wins just because they play faster. The coaches understand what is needed better. That alone will probably pick up several wins. So I'd like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thank you, Ross, for the call. I'm hoping specifically on the Brian Callahan front. You know, we have brought this up a little bit of how much better has he gotten? How much do you learn from year 1 to year 2? And that's both as an offensive play caller, which is very important, but more importantly as the head, the CEO of the whole thing. What did you learn last year about how much of a tire fire it was and the way things went, and how much better is Brian Callahan in year 2? Because he's going to have to be better.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I might be a little optimistic that it translates to several wins, but I mean, I think that's only happening if also the roster proves to be improved to a pretty fair degree, and if Cam Ward is, that's a lot of factors. But I think that's a fair point, and I think Denard Wilson. I think Denard Wilson's a promising, prospect as a D coordinator, as maybe a head coach someday. I mean, all these coaches last year, I think at times we saw like they did look like first-year coaches. They didn't do great. They didn't do their jobs at the highest level in this league. Also, again, they had what is objectively considered the worst roster in the NFL. So how much did you put on coaches? It's hard. I mean, it's even like people – we got more texts today. It's basically daily whenever we get into quarterback talk. How could you judge Will Levis last year, the offensive line? I mean, they obviously did, and I think objectively speaking, I think that you can still judge a quarterback even if the offensive line play is bad, and that's happened. I think it's fair. But it is hard when so many things are bad to divvy it up and identify exactly what the issue is. So we'll know a lot more this year.
We'll know a lot more this year, and like I said, beyond, everybody's going to be judged on wins and losses ultimately. I get that. I've said it many times. I did not think, even given the state of the roster last year, that Brian Callahan and his coaching staff displayed enough answers to the problems. And frankly, they got blown out way too much in a league where it should be hard to get blown out as much as they did last year. So that tells me it's a combination of things. Yes, the roster is a huge and the biggest part of it. I think we would all agree with that. But the coaching's got to get better. And we'll see on the Brian Callahan front how much that happens. Joe, you've been yelling about something for a while in the world of college football. And I think potentially we could be heading towards a solution here, because we all know that money can solve a lot of problems. And maybe money is about to get thrown at this particular problem. The SEC, currently with an 8-game conference schedule, which you've talked about, is ridiculous. The Big Ten plays 9. There's really no reason, especially now with as big as the SEC is, for it to not be playing 9 conference games. It's better football. We all want to see better football. All due respect to, Tennessee taking on Chattanooga and Alabama taking on Mercer. The more we can eliminate those games, the better off with it I am. And apparently, according to The Athletic, ESPN has a willingness to maybe try to solve this problem. I'll read the first couple of graphs from Seth Emerson and Andrew Marchand, who have put this together at the Athletic. ESPN has indicated a willingness to increase its payment to the SEC if the conference adds a 9th game to its league football schedule. Sources briefed on the matter told the Athletic. There is no formal offer yet, those sources added, and the exact amount of the increase still needs to be fully negotiated, but the sources said the additional money would likely be in the range of $50 to $80 million annually on top of the current deal in which ESPN pays the conference $811 million per year to broadcast its sporting event. So nothing has been offered and or negotiated on that front yet, and it does not guarantee that this is going to be the final thing that clears the hurdle when it comes to the 9-game conference schedule. But we do know, Joe, money solves a lot of things in the world of sports. What do you make of this potential solution here that apparently ESPN is willing to at least try with the SEC?
Yeah, good job by Seth and Andrew, friends of the show.
Indeed.
And here's some journalism, facts and stuff like that. Those things happen. And this is important. We'll see if they actually do this. Get further in the story, and they've got the SEC meetings in Destin, which ideally you'd have the spring meetings. Yes, which ideally you would have the
can we go
decision made. Actually, I might be going.
Sweet,
yeah,
good for you.
Yeah. I mean, you can come along too. Put find a little cot for you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sleep on the beach.
Probably not.
But they're probably so the whole thing here is also the playoff format, right? So that's like June is probably when that happens, and that's when I think this happens. And I think that's still going to come down to, even with this money, I think it still is going to come down to how it looks. And I hope it's not, okay, well, if we get the auto bids, yeah, we'll play more games because then there's less risk on us. I hope it's not that. But I think that's probably discussed, at least in that way. And they need to go to 9, in my opinion. I understand the idea that, well, if we go to 9, are we screwing ourselves? But like the Big Ten is at 9. I think it should be uniform, like you said. As far as fans and the product, like you want fewer of these games that are just not competitive, that are just there to have a home gate and to have a television inventory, but no one's interested in the actual product that day. So I'm glad ESPN is wisely, in my opinion, doing this. They saw what last year, the ratings, everything was great. So now it's on the SEC to actually step up here.
Well, I could tell you that's going to be probably the first thing that Sankey approaches on this topic, which is, we'll do this if we can get this college football playoff figured out where we have 4 auto bits. Let's do it.
Yeah, although it's interesting because I think Sankey has taken note of how many people are very against that idea. So he's been real careful too, right? Allocations. And
yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. It doesn't have to be, ultimately what then ends up happening is then you get to 16, and it's like, okay, at some point you're big enough that you can absorb, if everybody can absorb a few losses, play all these awesome games, which again is not the college football we grew up with, but it's where we are.
It's where we are. Unfortunately,
Embrace
it's where we are. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. I've got a mini Rob rant coming up next before we get to the Rex rant.
Nice.
7:45.
So many rants.
It's going to be an angry 30 minutes here coming up. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Nashville Sounds take on Norfolk. Pregame beginning at 6:20. First pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. We got the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up here in just a few minutes. We'll have Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports with us at 8 o'clock to get into the Titans and all things NFL. But, Joe, I've got a bone to pick and a fear that I think is very quickly going to become a reality here in the world of sports. You know, this has been, when you really look at it, objectively, really a fantastic year for hockey. Like, it really has been. The Four Nations tournament was an unbelievable success that I don't think anybody saw really coming that way, like to that level of what it looked like. And we've talked about that and how it sets up next year for international hockey in the Olympics, and it's going to be awesome, and everybody's looking forward to that. The ratings are good. The money's good. The cap's going up a lot. It's good. Hockey in the playoffs. Like, there's a lot to love about hockey right now. And I think it's in a great spot. And I have a fear that in the not too distant future, we're going to dilute this thing a little bit, and that NHL expansion is going to be at the root of that. Now, look, expansion, obviously, we're in a city where expansion has benefited greatly, right? They came here in the late 90s, and it has turned into a fantastic hockey market and a place to play and all that. Vegas very quickly had success, and it has turned into one of the best organizations in the NHL, objectively. Seattle, it's been a little bit of a slower go, but Seattle seems to have embraced the Kraken, and things are going really well. So you've hit that number of 32 in the NHL, which, frankly, I think is perfect. Like, I think 32 teams is exactly what they need. Frankly, I think the NBA is going to get to 32 at some point. I mean, they're going to go to Vegas, and we'll see where else the NBA ends up, whether it's back in Seattle or what that looks like. But NBA is going to get to 32 at some point. The NFL is at 32. I think it's in a great spot where it is, and I have a fear that we're going to get to 36. And I just think it's too much. Like, I think it's too many teams. Number one, it's too many teams. Number two, I think when you have four more teams that could be coming, I think you start to dilute the talent pool a little bit and the level of play, not with your top guys or anything like that, but as a league, as you have to go deeper into the rosters and you're adding what at that point would be over, 100 more players to the league, I think you're diluting the pool a little bit. And I get it. It's the money. Like, the money when you add expansion teams is really good. And I mentioned it. The money's going well for the NHL right now. And frankly, the expansion is a part of that, right? Like, there was an exorbitant expansion fee that Vegas had to pay to get in the league. And then it went up with Seattle. And now they're talking about, could Houston get an expansion team? Yep. Could you go back to Phoenix? And it didn't work with the Coyotes, but a lot of that was ownership and kind of the land problems in Phoenix. So could you eventually go back there if there's a better solution there? People want another team in Toronto, which I just think is stupid, but people want another team in Toronto. Like, there's all these different options that are out there. People have thrown Kansas City out there as a potential spot in the NHL for expansion. So I have no doubt that it's probably going to happen, and that 36 is probably going to be the number at some point. And I just don't like it. Like, I think that's too many teams, and I am not a fan of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Too much. Bradford says meet in the middle at 34. I could live with that. 36 seems crazy.
I think 34 is hard to do, though, because at least at 36, you got 18 on one side and you got 18 on the other. You're right. Like, I don't like it, but it's an even number. I think 34 is harder to do.
Yeah, 17 and 17.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, then one division has one more, obviously, than the other.
Exactly.
Wasn't Hamilton, Ontario? Is that where these guys were going? Hamilton, Ontario?
That's where they were going to go. Yeah.
Yeah. What about Hamilton, Ontario?
I mean, they're on the list. I mean, there's all sorts of people talking like, what about Quebec City? Like, are they going to get another team?
Like, Houston has, Houston has been very.
Like, I think Houston's going to happen. I mean, Houston is the fourth biggest market in the United States or whatever it is. Like I think they're eventually going to get into Houston. But, and again, like I get it. Like the money is going to be what drives this thing ultimately. As a hockey fan and somebody that is just worried about the game itself, I understand the money part of it. I don't love the idea of 36 teams in what is already, I think, the hardest championship in major professional sports to win, in my opinion. I think adding more teams to it, making it more difficult, and again, diluting the talent pool as a whole when you have just more people coming in. It's not like there are like more great players floating around. It's basically the same as it's been for a while now. But I like you're going to have like AHL guys in the NHL on a more consistent basis if you're just adding more players to the talent pool.
Well, the Milwaukee Admirals.
They did stave off elimination last night.
The Milwaukee Admirals are still alive. Just bring the Milwaukee Admirals up. I mean, that's an exciting team.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. No, I think you're right. I think you're totally on point. I agree with Dennis. I agree with Dennis on this too. One, you can have too much of a good thing, but like the outdoor games example with the NHL, there's so many now that they don't seem special, but like they do well. So what are you supposed to do?
Right.
If you're in charge of a league like that, you're going to be like, okay, well, my job is largely to drive revenue.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, look,
but there's still a balance.
When Vegas came in, what was the number of the expansion fee? It was like $550 million or something like that, right? And then Seattle came in, and it was like $630 something million, roughly around those. Who's to say that by the time the next expansion wave comes in, like does somebody have to pay a $1 billion expansion fee to get in? Like if I'm Gary Bettman in the league, it's hard for me to look at that and say, oh, no, thanks. We're not doing that. But like you don't want to get to 45 teams in the NHL, right? Like I think you get to a point where it's too much. Now, some would argue that maybe 36 is the perfect number. I think we're at the perfect number right now. That's just me.
Yeah, 36 is wild, man. I mean, you think about the NFL, like when I was a kid, like the NFL obviously has done incredibly well. But like even when I was a kid, it was 28. It's not like it's like they understand like there's got to be a limit here. 36 teams in a American professional sports league to me seems absolutely excessive. Now, why does 32 seem okay? I mean, obviously it's just like because you get used to it, but I think you're right, man. The watering down is something to really be concerned about.
Well, I think you gotta be cognizant of that if you're the league. But again, I ultimately think like I can whine about this. I think I'm going to lose. Like I think the momentum is going to be there for the NHL to eventually get to 36. And what I hope is they look at it and say, all right, 36 is enough. Let's not get to 40. I hope we can, I don't need 20 teams in each conference.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's an unbelievable amount.
You're not college sports, okay?
Right.
We already got enough issues with college sports, and there are 20-team leagues that are soon arriving. What do you think of the Utah Mammoth? You like the Mammoth?
I kind of do. Like I like the Mammoth. Now, full disclosure, I like the idea of the Utah Yeti better. And then I think they ran into like some trademark stuff with that thing. So they've gone with the Mammoth here. Now, I've known it's going to be the Mammoth for a couple of weeks because I don't know if you saw this, but they accidentally like registered the YouTube name, and that made the rounds a couple of weeks ago. So it was like, oh, the Utah Hockey Club's YouTube name used to be just the Utah Hockey Club, and now it's the Utah Mammoth. I wonder what they're going to name their team. So that's been out there for a couple of weeks. I like the jerseys. I think they're cool. So I'm a fan of it. What about you?
Got the Kraken, got the Mammoth.
Yeah.
Things like that. If we're going to have all these teams, can someone be the Bigfoot? Like why have we not have Bigfoot yet?
I agree.
Or
and the Yeti would have been close.
Yeah, the Yeti would have been close. Yeah. But it's okay. Mammoth, it's all right. It's not as cool as Kraken. Kraken's
pretty cool.
And I like their sweater. I like all that.
I like the Mammoth sweater. I do. Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Tuss up, baby.
Yeah,
Tuss up.
That I don't like. We don't have to have a catchphrase for like everything, do we?
Yes, we do.
I guess we do.
Unfortunately, yes.
Let's head back to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Rob to the program. Rob, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, good morning. It's been a minute. I really enjoy you guys, so thank you so much for adding a lot to our day.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, just before I weigh in on the 36, do you know why they used to throw the octopus in Detroit?
Yes, because that's how many wins it took to win a championship.
Right. Took 8 games to win. Now it takes 16. And what's it going to take with 36 teams? 24. Like it's to a point where the original 6 carries so much beauty to it because there was, the hockey players were totally awesome, and then build and build and build. At 32, you look where we are right now. You look at what we saw for the Nashville Predators. Basically, we're watching Milwaukee play. We're paying $200 a ticket. Is that right? I say no. So, like, the whole thing is you've got you're going to be watching. Basically, we're going to be watching American Hockey League hockey in Nashville, and that's not what I want to pay. $18.50 for a beer and $12.50 for a hot dog to watch a kid with zits that shouldn't make it anyway. And so I'm just like, it's enough is enough. And I think that overall, when you watch what's happening already, we're watching American Hockey League hockey anyway. So it can only get worse. Totally agree with you, Robby. Good point.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. I mean, again, like the top of the game, like the playoffs are great. Like the playoffs are.
By the way, that better not freaking change. Like, to Rob's point,
playoff expansion, and don't get any ideas about like this stupid play-in stuff that the NBA is doing. That Gary
20
Bettman,
teams don't play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's if you have 36, 20 don't play.
Yeah, Gary Bettman has shut down the idea to this point of going with the play-in stuff, which thankfully, let's just shut it down.
Don't even bring it up again. No one bring it up again.
But yeah,
lying media.
I mean, if they get to 36, I mean, they're going to be owners that are sitting there like, you got to expand the playoffs. You got to expand the playoffs. And I'm going to be screaming, no, leave it alone.
No.
Playoffs are fine.
Yeah, that's a big – because I think you're right. Like, there's nothing we're going to be able to say to stop this, but that's got to be foot down on that one.
So that was my Rob rant. We got the Rex rant coming up next.
Hey.
Take your thoughts, 615-737-1025.
And apparently it has to do – I didn't realize – is Rob right? Is it $18.50 for a beer? Because I'm going to have a couple tonight at Bridgestone.
We're going to find out.
Hope not. That's an extra $1 I didn't expect to pay.
Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
What's up? This is Scott Stapp from Creed, and you're listening to Robby and Rexrode on 102.5 The Game.
Marlins, baseball, home run.
You know Creed, right? Dude, it's the best. If you can do a good Creed sound, it sounds great. Sure. With all the hound under all the sunlight, welcome to this place. I'll show you something like that. You know what I mean?
Sometimes when I walk down the street, people shout, "What's up, Creed?"
Stolen base. I know some baseball words.
Did I say Rexrode right?
Rexrode.
Rexrode. Okay, let me do that again.
Worries.
What's up? This is Scott Stapp from Creed, and you're listening to Robby and Rexrode on 102.5 The Game.
Oh, this is so frustrating.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, the floor is yours.
That was an amazing opening. Who was talking there when they were doing? Who was that?
I have it in here saved as Bryce Petty.
There you go.
Former quarterback from, I guess, Baylor, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wow.
So I don't know. It's a throwback.
That's highly skilled.
I got it in here, and so there we go.
Interesting. So I love that intro. I just wish that you would have ended it with Pearl Jam, because we're going to see Pearl Jam tonight.
Yes.
You know,
but it's the Rant. So.
I know. So, and this is the thing. This is the only negative thing I have to say to Pearl Jam. I do have. Someone is asking for my top 10 list. Don't worry. I got my top 10 list of songs I want to see tonight. And I'm jacked because Tuesday's show did not have any of my top 10 songs. And so I feel like I've got a chance here to get a few of them. But I have to offer one critique of Pearl Jam. It's not really their fault, but, you know, I've ranted about this before. I'll quickly go through it. You got great bands. What happens in music is you have a creative, truly great artist. Sometimes it's an all new style of music, but a lot of times it's just like that particular band has a sound, and then they're very successful, and then the suits get involved, and then you have a bunch of crappy copycats. Like, for example, the best band of all time, the Beatles. Thank you. Then you get like the Monkees, right? Okay. After that. Yeah. It's my rant, Robert. No comments from you.
Let's check.
You got, like early 70s, you got Grateful Dead, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then you get a bunch of cheesy like 70s like stuff like yacht rock. I mean, I love yacht rock, but still, Led Zeppelin leads to lesser copycat like Deep Purple, Stevie Wonder, a million copycats, Black Sabbath, incredible like really a different sound of metal, and it gets to like stuff that I used to think was good when I was 12, like Poison and White Lion, that really wasn't good, like the hair bands. Prince and Michael Jackson had a million copycats, like some of the one-hit wonders. Again, I like some of it too. Like, so some people like Creed, and that's fine. If you like Creed, that's fine. But the early 90s was, to me, an incredible time for music. I still think it's one of the most important times for music. We kind of got out of the hair rock crap, and we got, of course, Nirvana really started it, but Pearl Jam was right there too, and Pearl Jam was obviously very successful. They're a great band. I'm so excited to see them tonight. By the way, that's going to be on Sirius Live, which tells me that there's going to be a pretty good set list. I mean, if they're going to put it live on the Pearl Jam channel, which is at 8:45, I feel like it's going to be pretty good. But Pearl Jam, man, it led right to Creed, and that's just too bad, And again, I can't blame these guys from Pearl Jam. It's not their fault that like what they did. Then a few years later, people thought Creed was good, even though Creed was total crap. But it is too bad that their copycat was among the worst bands to ever make music.
You know what I hope for you tonight?
What's that?
I hope that Pearl Jam they're playing, they're doing their thing out there, and they say, you know what? We've got a nice live surprise guest for you, baby.
I'll walk
Here's
out.
Scott Stapp from Creed.
I will walk out.
And he comes out and joins them on stage.
I will.
And play that song and play a Creed song.
I hope they go 5 Creed songs deep out there tonight. I hope they just lean into it. And I hope they do it just for you. And I hope you're forced to sit there and watch and listen.
I'll leave.
You will not.
Katie might stay, but I will leave. Oh, God, that's a nightmare. Now I'm afraid because this happens all the time.
I hope it happens. If Pearl Jam, if you're listening, which I know you are,
Yeah.
You got any sort of pull around here, you make sure Scott Stapp's out on that stage tonight.
I'm fine if you call out Scott Stapp to play the cowbell, okay? Scott, we need more cowbell. He's just out there, ting, ting, ting. That's fine.
I get lumped into this garbage because the people, sometimes people will text in and be like, I can't believe you guys hate Creed the way you do. It ain't both of us. It's just one of us. And he's sitting over there. He's not sitting right here.
Eric brings up Puddle of Mud. There's a good one. There's a lot. I mean, again, you get to the mid, late 90s, and you get all the terrible bands that were trying to copy all the good bands like Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins. And,
Remember that time Todd Richards called in, Fred's assistant coach, and he was like, man, that intro's awesome. I love Creed so much.
Creed is, again, people like Creed. It's fun. Again, I like yacht rock. Yacht rock, some of it is really bad, but I like it. So, I understand. You don't have to. This is not we're not trying to be Karski in the Ivy League, okay? But I'm just saying they suck. All right, here's my top 10 Pearl Jam songs that I want to hear tonight real quick. Chloe Dancer, number 1. That's a Mother Love Bone song. Andrew Wood passed away. That basically is what led to Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder replacing him. It's a very unlikely play, but they sometimes play it. Got to see Chloe Dancer. State of Love and Trust. Breath, both of them from the single soundtrack. Not For You. I Got Id, WMA, Tremor Christ, Animal, Hail, Hail, and Once is my only song of 10 that I want to see. Again, they played none of these the other night. I feel like I got a pretty good chance of getting a few of them. So fingers crossed for
No
me.
Even Flow? I can't understand a word he says.
They played that the other night.
Okay.
And I love Even Flow. And I saw them play that last time they were in Nashville, but I'm cool.
Pearl Jam, your orders have been given. Scott Stapp tonight. If he's not out there, I want no part of it. We'll have Charles Robinson coming up next from Yahoo Sports. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning. How are you?
Doing well, gents. How you doing this morning?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Charles, a lot of discussion about Brian Callahan around here as he enters into year 2. And we've talked with you about just the idea of the coach and the number 1 overall pick at quarterback and how detrimental removing that coach could be for the development of the quarterback. So as you view Callahan, we all know it went off the rails in year 1. How do you view year 2 for him? And what do you think should be the way the Titans approach this season with him in terms of evaluating Callahan and whether or not he keeps his job at the end of the year?
Well, I think to me, it's a reboot, right? I mean, if you go out and you spend the first overall pick on a quarterback and Brian's involved in the process of vetting that player and, you go in with the intention of Cam Ward learning his offense, running his offense, building that relationship. I think you have to effectively start over in my mind because, and we discussed this last week. I think the worst thing you can do when you go and you get a quarterback is to, especially if the head coach is an offensive coach and, the player is running his scheme and, learning his traits, his culture, all these different things. The worst thing you can do is then erase all of that after 1 year and effectively start all over again with the quarterback and a new coordinator and a new quarterback's coach. Because that's another thing too you have to consider is if you steer away from Brian Callahan after 2025, you're steering away from his staff. That's what often happens. Everybody goes out the door and you're just beginning again. I would think that the alignment of the organization would have been, okay, we're going out to get a quarterback. We want this connection to exist beyond 2025. So even if there's struggles or if it's a bit of an uphill battle at the start, we're just going to have to fight through it. And I think that's a conversation even the Giants had about Jackson Dart. You have Brian Daboll, Joe Shane. They're sitting there going, okay, well, our jobs are dependent on having some success in the 2025 season. Well, I think John Mara made it pretty clear behind closed doors. Like, look, we don't want to go draft a quarterback in the first round, trade up to get him, and then throw him a curveball of, oh, well, this didn't work out. There was no success in 2025. So now we're going to go ahead and change directions and basically put all this in jeopardy again with this kid, which is what I think you would be doing with Cam Ward. If you change directions with a coaching staff, you're literally just telling the kid, look, we got to retool after 1 year in the NFL, and we're putting you basically a year behind schedule where you're supposed to be. So I think, to me, if you're going into 2025 going, Brian Callahan's on the hot seat or whatever, if he's coaching for his job in 2025, then you probably shouldn't have picked a quarterback number 1 overall, knowing that you're going to have to restart that process and how detrimental ultimately that can be. And I know that's, maybe fans don't want to hear that. You go 3-14 or whatever, let's say it's a disaster season, fans are going to want to see him fired. But I think what's more important, frankly, and I might be alone in this, what's more important, I think, than wins and losses is what progress do you see with Cam Ward? Does he have a season where he grows? Does he reach some of those benchmarks you want to see? And are you willing to go through the pain in the wins and losses column to make sure that the foundation, that kid, is going to be the centerpiece of that team and not be uprooted really quickly? Because you don't know. That's another thing too. Even though you could go out and shop for another coach with your quarterback in mind, and that coach being the person that comes in, quote unquote, fixes, Cam Ward after 1 season. I've seen coaching staffs come in with the intent of wanting to coach that quarterback, sort of how, Brian Callahan came in, Will Levis, wanting to coach that quarterback, and then after a year going, nah, that's not my guy. I want to go in a different direction. Consider that. That can happen. You saw that happen there, and I've seen it happen with very, very high-end picks. Sean McVay went in to rewire Jared Goff with the LA Rams, took him, to heights, and then decided years into the process, he can't grow anymore with me. It's time for me to move on without this guy and go in a different direction. It can happen with number 1 overall picks very easy.
So, Charles, I don't want to overjudge someone for like public comments. Some people aren't great at that. But I will say that James Gladstone's little presser thing about Travis Hunter was about as good as like my 6th grade book report in front of the class about why Ty Cobb was better than Babe Ruth. And it makes me think that maybe they're going to be a complete bleep show, but I don't know. You tell me, like, is this a kid genius who's going to revolutionize Jacksonville, or is he going to continue the tradition of that franchise?
He sounded a lot like McVay to me. Like, it was funny because after he had that press conference, someone in the league clipped out a little piece of it and texted it to me. And it was it was part of that introduction for Travis Hunter, and just, sounded like something like Phil Jackson would say when he's on a heater, and really like just completely talking about, mysticism and, the dawn of man. And I'm like, dude, this, it did sound though. I was like, he's been listening to McVay. Like, this sounds like McVay at his, when he's really rolling and going all over the place. I don't know. Honestly, we'll see. I tend to believe I'm less worried about the general manager there at that point, because frankly, anything was an upgrade. Swapping out that position in the off season. And then, Liam Cohen to me is, if what he accomplished in Tampa Bay is real, I think you will see that offense get exponentially better pretty quickly, particularly the run game for the Jaguars. I think Cohen is the one that we're going to see pretty quickly what kind of an impact he can have on that organization. And everything I heard about Cohen coming out of Tampa was just, how much confidence he instilled in Baker Mayfield, the connection he had with, the wide receiver room. Obviously the way he completely revamped their running game and made it dominant with Bucky Irving down the stretch. So, when I stare at Jacksonville, I'm like, all right, offensively, if this guy is what he's cracked up to be, we're going to see Jacksonville get it together pretty quickly with the head coaching change. But I can't speak. I've never spoken to their general manager. I don't have any kind of a relationship with him. A lot of this, after his hiring was my introduction to him was just sort of reading up on him, talking to different guys about him. Les Sneed has a really, really high opinion of him, the general manager of the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously he would, that's his guy. But I can't speak authoritatively to whether he's going to, make good on some of the stuff that he says in his press conference. Plus, let's
stretch the bounds of human possibility.
He thinks Travis Hunter's going to be a Jedi, I think.
I'll say this, I've gotten wrapped up. Okay, Nick Sirianni's introductory press conference, I was like, this is a disaster.
That's fair. Yep, that is fair.
Dan Campbell's introductory press conference, I was like, this dude's a disaster. Like it's just, I've seen introductory press conferences where I'm like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yep.
What are we talking about? What is going on here? And been completely wrong about, how the individual ultimately, Brandon Staley, I loved his introductory press conference. That didn't work. So it's, let's not get overly wrapped up in, how loopy people can get with their introductory press conferences and, see what they actually accomplish on the field.
So let's dig into another team in the AFC South, and that is the Colts, who have the quarterback competition between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. Now, Charles, to me, I think if you're the Colts, I think you have to start the season with Richardson and just see if he responds at all and what that looks like. I realize he had a 47.7% completion percentage last year, which is, borderline impossible to have in the NFL. So I get all that. So how do you read this? Like, are you viewing this as a legitimate competition? If it is, does that signal to you that maybe Indy's already done with Anthony Richardson? How do you view kind of what's going on in Indianapolis at the quarterback spot?
I'll be honest. I think it's stacked for Daniel Jones to just take the job. Like, it's the finances alone. You know, I know it's a 1 year, $14 million deal, but he got 13 million, a little over 13, almost 13.2 million guaranteed at signing. That's way above average for a backup quarterback. You know, I think it was, in a way, the deal reminded me a little bit of when the Titans traded for Ryan Tannehill, and you're like, okay, so this is it for Marcus Mariota. Like this is it. Like, either he's going to get this in gear, or this other guy who's coming in is going to ultimately take over this job. Only I think this is way worse. I think the Colts and you know, Robby, the 47% completion percentage is a huge red flag. How about 12 interceptions and 9 fumbles in 11 games?
It's hard to do.
12 interceptions and 9 fumbles in 11 games. That's insane. And that's without even getting to the point that he tapped out of a game, which really, to me, was the beginning of the end for him. You can't tap out of a game, then talk about it later and admit you were tired. You just want to check out for a couple plays or a play. Like that was a massively damaging moment for him. And I think the way that the Colts are looking at it is, if Richardson somehow kicks this into gear, that's frosting. Like, I don't even know if they really expect it. They're talking about adding competition to the room. I think they went hunting for the starter to take over. And especially once the offseason began, it got out really, I mean, it was out there everywhere in the league that they were going to get Daniel Jones. Indianapolis was. And so, like, Chris Ballard, either it was Chris Ballard, someone else in the organization was clearly, you know, made it very, very obvious to everyone that they wanted to go get Daniel Jones to take over as the starter there. And, you know, so I don't even know what to say about Richardson. It's been the worst possible outcome. Like, if you had sat there and stacked it when the Colts took him and said, okay, well, here's the ceiling, here's the floor. It's a really considerable ceiling, but it's an extremely low floor too. I think we're at the low floor end of it. And, you know, again, it's just going to come down to what can Richardson do. I think from a mental standpoint, from a confidence standpoint, you know, throw all the physical stuff out at this point, because we know he's got that. It's just every other thing that it takes to be a quarterback. Is he preparing the way he needs to prepare? Like, I would say he needs to step in immediately, show that he can be just efficient, not turn the ball over, not have ball security issues, you know, hit short passes, hit intermediate passes. Don't worry about, you know, throwing it 65 yards in the air, and just run an adequate functional offense that, frankly, it's there. Their offense is prepared to be at least above average. You know, Jonathan Taylor, healthy, is still one of the best backs in football. Michael Pittman Jr., I think, has far more to offer than he has been offering, but I think that's because of problems at the quarterback spot. You know, Josh Downs is a quality slot player. You go out and you draft Tyler Warren, who, you know, should be able to help do a lot of different things on that offense, whether it's, you know, running some wildcat, you know, I think it's pass blocking, being an inline, you know, tight end at times. Obviously receiving, you know, he's shown that coming out of Penn State, he could do a lot of different things. So it's, and I think even the offensive line, you know, healthy is adequate enough for Daniel Jones to go in there, take that job over, and for the Colts to look a heck of a lot better pretty quickly. And frankly, I think if Jones does well enough, he could, like Tannehill with the Titans, play himself into being the long-term starter, you know, in that organization. But I'm with you, Robby. It feels like they got to come in and, you know, lean into Anthony Richardson, at least initially, I would say in camp. But I don't think it's stacked that way. To me, it feels like it's stacked more for them to make the move to Jones pretty quickly once Richardson falters.
So everything you're saying makes sense to me. And so I'm with you there. But then, of course, that leads to the question of, all right, so how is Chris Ballard keeping his job? Like, I understand Andrew Luck walked out, and that set them back a long way. But I don't know that I've ever seen anybody get this many kicks at the can and try to fix quarterback and not be able to do it and still hold on to their job. It's wild to me.
Yeah, and I mean that's not. It's not. If you look at, I would say this. Ballard definitely has his critics across the league. People who will stack up and say, they will ask why don't you criticize Chris Ballard? Like, here's his draft pick history. Like, here, look at all these. There's misses at the top. There's misses in the middle that are really consistent, and yet he's never really held accountable for it. I can't. I will say this: like, if it wasn't Indianapolis, if it was in Philly, if it was in Chicago, if it was in, I think there are still markets where you can kind of get away with failing repeatedly. Houston was like that for a long time. I guess you just call it a small market atmosphere. I still think Indy's a big small town. And that probably leans into it. Also, he's got an owner. Look, let's be honest. Like, Jim Irsay's all over the place, right? Like, he's not. I wouldn't say he's the most present individual when it comes to always being there and holding everybody accountable in the league. And I think he's got his own accountability problems. So maybe that plays into it as well. But yeah, Ballard's missed on coaches. He's missed on quarterbacks. He's missed on, a multitude of picks along the way. Some places you just get a lot of chances. This feels like this is that place. But I'll say this too. If this is a unmitigated failure again, even with Daniel Jones in the fold, I think at that point you're starting to go, okay, maybe it's time to do a clean sweep. And I would say the coaching staff could be in jeopardy as well as Ballard.
Okay. Well, you're on the record with that because I'm skeptical. I feel like he's got a lifetime appointment at this point. But okay, now you can comment on whatever aspect of this you like, Charles. But I'm going to specifically bring up this. Apparently, like when Skip Bayless gets one over on Tom Brady, that's really something.
Brady didn't have any. Yeah.
Well, but this is what I want. This is the point. Skip Bayless says clearly Tom Brady, told the Raiders, like, don't draft Shador. I keep trying to read this, and the ad on my phone keeps going in front of me. But here's the quote. It's holy crap. The ad keeps going in front of me. Look at this. Robbie, what are we doing here?
The struggle that is taking place with him.
I hate technology. Okay, quote. It's kind of unfortunate. Yeah, I know. Quote, it's kind of unfortunate because there actually used to be a lot of integrity in media, and there's way less now because everyone needs crazy voices to get heard. It actually probably hurts a lot of relationships, which is not the goal of broadcasting. It should be to develop and cultivate and solve problems. And rather than the critiques, I want people to offer solutions, end quote. Please comment on this freaking guy. The size
I don't really. I mean, I don't agree with any of that. I don't think it's anyone's. I don't think it's anyone's job in media to help other organizations solve their problems, right? And I saw what Bayless said, and it was, it's clearly he presented it as an opinion, which is weird that Tom riffs on this, but what I saw there was a guy who got asked about something he was uncomfortable with.
Yes.
And none of it rung true to me. Okay. And look, I say this, Tom Brady does his car washes like through Hertz or whatever. I talked to him a couple of times in the last, year or so. I've never had a problem with Brady. But there's just, to me, it's very intellectually dishonest when an owner comes out and says, hey, we're bringing this guy in. He's going to have a big voice in the building. The general manager tells you straight up he was going to be involved in looking at quarterbacks, or whatever it was. We'd be crazy, not to talk to Tom about the quarterbacks. And then Tom Brady, by the way, you select a quarterback in the 6th round in Cam Miller, and then your general manager comes out and says, hey, Tom liked the way he threw it. Tom liked his technique and his throwing.
But he had no comment on Shador. We forgot to ask about Shador.
Right. He wasn't involved in the evaluation process of Shador. So wait a minute. You're the kid's mentor for a long time, right? You're friends with his dad. You know him pretty well. You know, there's been some commentary in the past about, you know, Tom telling Shedeur, you know, spend more time in the car, or get out of the car and spend more time in the film room. You know, like, but then when it comes time to draft a quarterback, which you do have a long-term need, and you had the 33rd pick in the 4th round, which is effectively the first, you know, in any normal year, it's the first pick in the 5th round, right? You had a 5th round pick basically sitting there, you know, to take him, and you didn't. And so it just, again, it's completely intellectually dishonest for the organization to paint Tom Brady in one light and say he's going to be involved in all these different things. And then they pass on someone who he knows on practically a granular level as a quarterback and as a person, right? And they don't even sniff the kid. And now Tom's like, well, I wasn't involved in that. Like, I wasn't, it just.
I texted him, hey, I went late in the draft too.
Right. Yeah, I felt too.
What does Shedeur say back to him? Cool. So, hey.
Right. So let's play this out logically, right? Let's play this out logically. Tom Brady cares a lot about how he's presented publicly, right? He has a very manicured, you know, brand, you know, what he is as a broadcaster, what he is as a businessman, his football, you know, achievements, all these different things. You're getting involved in an evaluation process now, and this is where it always can get tricky for players, ex-players, right? You have relationships, right? And especially when they go into broadcasting, more often than not, they don't really want to give you biting commentary on their buddies, on people they know, on relationships, on coaches. Like, they don't want to go into broadcasting and undress the coaching staff for a bunch of mistakes they made, or a quarterback for, you know, stupid boneheaded things he might have done in the game, because they know, like, I know this guy, like, it interferes obviously with their ability, you know, to come to the table and then show, like, basically open their robes and say, okay, this is it. We're bearing it all here. The same thing happens in this evaluation, where Shedeur is such a flashpoint that everybody's staring at the Raiders and going, wait a minute, of all the teams that probably know this kid better than anybody else, it's Tom Brady and the Raiders. Why are they passing on him? Like, that to me became a very interesting indictment along the draft fall, because it's like, why aren't the Raiders taking him? Why aren't the Raiders? Okay, well, now he's in backup territory. That shouldn't, Geno Smith shouldn't have to look over his shoulder if you're taking a kid at, you know, in the late 4th round, top of the 5th round. And then for Tom just to come out and say, I didn't have any part at all in the evaluation process, it just felt really disingenuous to me. And it's unfortunate. And again, I think a very easy tactic in this scenario is to steer it into a media, talk about us, the media, talk about, you know, it's the same stuff we got into when I got mad at you about bringing up the mock drafts. Like, really, this is where we want to go with this? We're going to blame it on all these other surrounding things and
blame
not
the media.
Yeah.
Blame media. That's the easy thing to do.
By the way, wasn't there, I have to go back and watch it again, wasn't there kind of a hard cut too in the middle of that whole back and forth?
I think there was,
like, I think there was a hard cut. And listen, we all have shot podcasts. We do video, we do all this stuff. I pay attention to hard cuts, especially in the middle of really sticky questions where someone clearly gets uncomfortable. Because to me, and I'm not saying this is what's happened, but I've seen it happen before. I've seen players stop things in the middle and go, yeah, you know, I don't want to address this. Like, I don't want to talk about this. So we're just gonna have to edit this out later or whatever, but this is not, let's not go down this, let's not go here. Like, you know, as Bill Belichick's girlfriend would say, we're not talking about occasionally the news organization puts that and it makes it look really, really bad. I would go back because I swear right in the middle of it, when he's uncomfortable, it feels like it wasn't a I felt like it wasn't like a seamless of media where it was just a 3-minute long diatribe and nothing ever got. Yeah. Tom was saying it unbelievable. I don't find it believable. Really in the wrong there, but I just and if it the flip side of that coin, if it is true, then I think the Raiders are null.
I would say so.
That's it. Like, if you didn't ask him about Shedeur and you're compromised.
Oh,
yeah,
shoot.
you're compromised.
Oh, we forgot. Ah, dang it. God, I knew we meant to call him for something, and then we forgot.
By the way, Mark Davis is going to get asked about this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, don't you think at some point someone's going to ask Mark Davis, like, hey, Tom says he wasn't part of the evaluation process of Shedeur Sanders. Why?
Well, the media today is,
Let's talk about my haircut.
Yeah, there you go. We can finally make fun of my haircut.
Charles, great stuff as always, my friend. Thanks for taking time to be with us, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care, guys.
Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, our guest. Lots to react to there from Charles. We'll do that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Over the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Charles Robinson for being with us in the last segment. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by Wilson County Hyundai.
Some of your thoughts. Some of your not.
Exactly.
That made no sense.
I'm
just excited that Ian played breath for me.
Take your thoughts on the YouTube chat as well, which has been flowing today. We appreciate it, as always. Interesting perspective there from Charles on the Brady stuff. I mean, look, the let's face it. Regardless of what you think of Tom Brady, like the idea that the Raiders just did not ask him and he was not involved at all in the evaluation process of Shedeur Sanders is just total bull crap. Can we not all accept that?
So let's go back before the draft. Could the Raiders not have foreseen this? If they knew, and clearly they did, they were not touching Shedeur Sanders on the advice of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So they knew this. So when you get asked about Brady's involvement, maybe don't say, "Oh, we'd be idiots not to listen to Tom."
Would be total morons not to ask Tom Brady about a quarterback.
Like, see, the thing is, this is what they probably assumed, that he would go higher, and then it wouldn't be a thing, right? Like, It doesn't even get to them. Maybe he goes in the first round, whatever it is, and then it's like, okay,
well,
great.
And then
move on with our lives.
The excuse could be, Ashton Gentry was there, man, and he's a generational running back. I had to take him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously, like most people, didn't think he was going to fall away. But now the way he falls, it's like, so his mentor, the guy that you were leaning on heavily, and again, the guy who, and Charles has referenced this a little bit in the past too, guy who seems to be he's not just an advisor on quarterbacks, he's got pretty strong voice in the organization. So the question is obviously coming, and the best they could come up with was Brady. Guys, the media really sucks, huh? Am I right or am I right? Embarrassing.
And that is true. As Charles pointed out, they did take a quarterback later in the draft. So he apparently was involved with that one.
Yeah.
But, the other one's not so much.
The Colts thing, I do want I love when Indy Ben, jumps in. You just never know. I do want it. Boy, this is a long one, Indy Ben. You got to chop these up a little bit. But he says the Colts are never going to draft QB high with this crappy draft. So Indy's hoping Anthony Richardson with a full healthy offseason, progresses, mechanics, mental aspects, et cetera, et cetera. He knows he's on the hot seat. He doesn't remember the long-term QB station. That's Ballard. This is not the same situation as Tennessee, as they've mainly had a crappy roster and made very questionable front office decisions leading to multiple firings. That's true, Indy Ben. You can comfort yourself with you're not the Titans right now.
That is true.
I think you do have a better team than the Titans. Now, the Titans may, we'll see, have an actual franchise quarterback, and the Colts have Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. So that's where Titans fans can probably feel at this moment, until they see Cam Ward play, feel better about things.
Let's operate under the assumption that his kind of intuition here is right, which everything he said made sense, and that they are like the Colts are planning on Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback. So Ballard, obviously when Andrew Luck walks out the door, that totally derails your franchise, right? And there's going to be some natural time that has to pass for you to try to overcome that. So I get that part of it. And you brought in Phillip Rivers, and Phillip Rivers is, pretty good for Indianapolis. In the aftermath of that, they've done what? Carson Wentz.
I mean, he had some stretches, and then all of a sudden they go to Jacksonville, and it was like, oh boy.
Well. Yeah. Carson Wentz in there. You had Matt Ryan, which failed miserably in Indianapolis. You took Anthony Richardson 4th overall, and it's been a total disaster to this point. Like, how many general managers survive that? I don't remember a situation in like modern football quite like this, where they survive like this many attempts to get the quarterback right, if in fact they are done with Anthony Richardson.
No, it's wild. It's interesting too, because what he was doing previously was actually kind of what I thought the Titans should do, what the Titans did do with Tannehill, and what I thought the Titans should do this offseason while they try to build up the rest of the roster. He had a really good roster. Maybe it was a little bit overestimated, but it was good. I mean, he had a very good team. Luck leaves, and so they tried to do the veteran thing. to try to take immediate advantage of the roster. And like you just laid out, none of it really worked out. Rivers was the best one. And that's another example of the downside of doing that, but then you go and try to get your guy and you apparently just completely flamed out. It'll be interesting if Charles is right that this is just headed toward Daniel Jones getting the job.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see like Richardson from there, because I could still see a team out there being like, okay, so again, he never played. They threw him in when you never throw that guy in as a rookie. Terrible decision-making on their part. They didn't intend to, but then they play him, and maybe there is still something there. I mean,
maybe. I mean, it is kind of amazing to me how they botched that, because this is not, we do admittedly a lot of second guessing in this business. It's what happens a lot.
Stupid media.
This is not second guessing with Anthony Richardson. Like, we screamed about it when they took him. I was like, yeah, he doesn't need to play. Like, he's not ready to play NFL football. And he's been horrible. Like, Charles Robinson laid it out there. He's the high floor, or excuse me, the high ceiling and the extremely low floor. It's almost hard in today's NFL to put up some of the numbers that he has. Like a 47.7% completion percentage in an 11-game span is hard to do in today's NFL.
And 21 combined turnovers, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
12 interceptions and
23. Did he say 11 fumbles?
I think
or
it was
9
12
fumbles?
interceptions and 9 fumbles.
Yeah. 21 turnovers. My goodness.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. It doesn't look good, and so I'm with you. It's just like, okay, so Daniel Jones, what's Daniel Jones going to do with that team this year?
I don't think Daniel Jones is very good.
An 8-9 kind of season.
And frankly, I've never thought Daniel Jones is very good. When he got the contract, I was like, okay. Like, even go back and look at his good season, right? When they made the playoffs and they won a playoff game. This is his stat line from that season. He threw for 3,200 yards, which is fine, 15 touchdowns and 5 picks. It's like, okay.
What was his rushing total?
His rushing total that year was, let me pull it up.
Because I feel like he did make a lot of plays, and he made some good plays late in games. Like he thought he was progressing.
He ran for 700 yards that year and 7 touchdowns. So that's obviously a big part of it. But like throwing the football, he's never been good. Like I've never understood the fascination around it.
Yeah, not good enough. I mean, I think the athleticism is part of it, and again, you bring him to Indy, you can do a lot of the same stuff. So at least like it stylistically, it makes sense, to go from one to the other. But I'm with you. He's not very good. He's not going to be.
Yeah. Like I don't, I could be wrong. I mean, I guess we should probably clip this up for when the Colts go win the division this year.
Yeah.
But we've seen Darnold go to a different stop and play well. We've seen Mayfield go to a different stop and play well. So there's recent history in the NFL of that happening. I will be very surprised if that happens with Daniel Jones.
Mayfield looked good his first stop too before he got hurt. So there, but yeah, Darnold, and then Darnold, you have the Jets tax, whatever that is. But there's a big tax if you go play for them.
I just Giants tax.
Well, so, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you could make that argument. I just think the inconsistency throwing the ball at this point, he's not Josh Allen. That Josh Allen, really, like, he's kind of like the same kind of player. Like, if he could be really good, he could be like a Josh Allen kind of player. But I don't think it's happening. How many years has he been in the league now? 4?
He has been in the league since 2019. So this will be.
That's right, because he got that little disc. So this will
be his 7th
year. Yeah, it's not happening, man.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. One more segment coming up next. More of your thoughts to get to on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor presented by Gary Force Acura at Hermitage Golf Course is back, coming up on Thursday, May 29th. You can sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, going back to the Will Levis point, we talked yesterday about edge rusher and if the Titans should go pursue getting an edge rusher.
Edge rusher, right tackle?
Yes, long snapper.
Good job.
Left guard, right guard.
Nice. Clip it.
One texter says, could you trade Will Levis for an edge rusher? Is that possible? You could probably trade him for an edge rusher. Not a very good one.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. It'd be a release.
Third stringer.
It'd be a pickup on waivers level player, basically.
Yeah. Well, if you think that you're going to trade Will Levis for like a contributing edge rusher, the answer is no. That's not going to happen.
Probably not.
Will Levis did not get moved at the draft. You know, the Titans say they didn't try to move him at the draft. And look, maybe they didn't. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe. Maybe they didn't try to move him at the draft. But I kind of took that as, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of interest on Will Levis around the league. So what's his value right now? Like, what's Will Levis worth in a trade? 6th rounder next year?
Yeah, something like that.
It's probably what it is.
And I continue to strongly believe that moving him is in their best interest. Never got into that with PK this week. We'll have to remember next week to bring that up so we can yell at him. He also would like to make fun of Stilley's take that the only reason the Titans, this came up on Jerry versus Joe, that the only reason the Titans possibly could have chosen Cam Ward is because Amy said you can't spend money. I'm cutting this is your budget. You have to make it work. And so they said, well, I guess we just have to take Cam Ward. That's
why they didn't sign a free agent quarterback.
Yes, okay. Exactly. That's got to be the answer. It couldn't be that they actually like Cam Ward, that they did their jobs and actually like Cam Ward. It must be that. So PK'd like in on that too.
Okay. We can do that.
Remember that for next week.
I mean, you could have got.
I'll totally forget.
So it was everything. Like, what did Jameis Winston sign for? Like, what was his contract?
4?
Yeah, so that was out of the budget.
But Jared's point yesterday is he was talking about Darnold in particular. Okay. So again,
2 for 8 for Jameis.
It couldn't be that they looked at Darnold and said, "Yeah, no thanks."
Right. Again, and I am someone, by the way, who liked that plan and agree on him. Like I would have taken a shot at him, but I don't agree with the dumb theory. For the record,
okay.
How about you?
No, I don't agree with that. No, I do not think.
For the record,
there was an edict from Amy that said you will not spend money on a quarterback. We will not do it.
If that's the case, then I would nominate Amy as the worst owner in sports.
Well, if that's the case, get excited about Cam Ward, baby. What a reason to draft.
Oh yeah, if that's the case, get excited about your franchise because it has no chance of having any success at all ever.
I mean, look, bad franchises.
They do bad things.
Do luck into things from time to time.
Yes.
Right?
Well, that is true. That's true. I mean, maybe that's how it happened. And these guys don't want Cam Ward. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, crap, he is good. All right, Amy. Yeah.
Good job, Amy. Good call. Way to go.
Woo. Give me a raise.
I hope that wasn't the case. The case.
It's not like it's not the craziest thing in the world to take Cam Ward. I wouldn't have done it. But let's not. I mean, we're starting to act like, he was a 7th round projected QB who went 1 overall. He was the best QB in this draft, according to evaluators, and he's got a lot of talent.
One thing that we'll get into a little bit tomorrow, we talked a lot about the idea of if you fire Brian Callahan after year 1 and what that would do to set Cam Ward back. And Mark from Ashland City texted, and he's not the only one. I've heard this theory kind of thrown out there too, that think that that's kind of like the dumbest approach ever. And like, what if he just sucks? Like, you'd be better off just moving on from him at that point, if that's the case. So we'll get a little bit more into that tomorrow on the show. But good stuff today. If you missed it, go check it out. Robby and Rexrode, wherever you get your podcast. Had Gentry Estes on earlier. Had Charles Robinson as well. Have fun at Pearl Jam tonight.
Oh, I will. I'll have a full review tomorrow morning.
Jason Big Joe coming up next. This is 102.5, 106.3 The Game.